This is our portal. The person who are new and joined this training the first time, they can see this is our URL ejalshakti.gov.in/WQMIS. And this is our main page. When you will type this URL, you will see this application. And here you can see login as there are different roles and users like public users, FTK users. So data entry parts should be done from here. As it is mentioned, there are mainly 5 roles. One is public user. Any public user can register themselves and take samples and go to any labs for sample testing. Then field test kit users, then department official, then laboratory officials, then DWSM. So please see briefly and what are the roles we will discuss in the later slides. Like for public use, sorry. Okay, this is the overview of process. How sample is being submitted and how sample is being tested. Any user has to register to himself for the testing. So we have user registration and self validation option. Then he takes the sample from the field and submit the sample into the system. Then sample goes to lab for FTK. They use FTK field test kits. Sample tested by labs technicians. For FTK, they can use FTK. In labs, they can use different methods available in the lab. And sample is being tested. Then lab in charge approve those samples that has been tested. Testing report should be approved by lab in charge. Then test report is generated. If this is a public user, test report goes directly to the public. If this is not public user, then you can see the result will be shown in the different reports. So this is a simple flow of this application. There is a person who should register himself at the different roles. Then sample is submitted, sample goes to lab or FTK, sample is tested by lab or FTK, then approval must be given. If approval is not given, then your sample will not be treated as tested. And then test report is generated. So it's look like a simple flow, but still you are facing issues. We will see and we will discuss what are the issues. So this is the flow for this is the responsibility of public user, how he can operate. You should guide different public users who are coming to your lab, what are their responsibility and how can they take their samples, not department sample, how can they test their samples. So for public user, they have to register themselves in the portal, and some state were saying that there is a what are the query ki, their login is expired in 2 months. So there is no such kind of things in this WQMIS. If a public user registered himself, he will be there as long as he wants. Then public user submits the water sample in nearest lab. How he will find nearest lab? If he will go in our portal, WQMIS portal, he can search the nearest lab. Then he has to pay the testing charges. Testing charges is already defined by the lab in charge or super level admin. What are the testing charges? And then he receives the reports after testing in SMS and emails. So this is for public user. Now comes to FTK users. FTK users registration is being done. Approval and activation of FTK users by lab in charge. So here is the responsibility of lab in charge. If any FTK user is not able to log in, then it must be with lab in charge. It should not come to us. Lab in charge should go and see if particular FTK user is active or not. If it is active, it should be system should allow them to log in. If it is not active, system will not allow them to log in. Then FTK user submits the samples and testing information. When as well as he submits the sample, result displayed on dashboard and reports. One additional responsibility have been given to FTK user, that is sanitary survey. They have to do sanitary survey and report it to the system. So these are the roles of FTK users. I hope in this VC some FTK users are also there. So they will learn how to do testing entry using FTK kits and how to submit the samples. We will show in the live demo. Then comes the departmental official. This role, super admin role, is very important. If super admin is not doing these activities, then everyone involved in the testing as well as submitting the sample will face problems, issues. So what are the roles of super admin? First is who define the super admin. Registration is done by the department, that is we, drinking Department of Drinking Water Sanitation. We have already given the super admin login ID password to each state. If still some state hasn't received or he is facing some problem, they can always come to us. So one login ID is provided to each state, and this is the limitation of this application, that we can not provide more than one super admin to any state. In a state, only one super admin can be defined in this application. So we have already distributed only one user ID and password. Then what super admin do? First is lab registration. He has to do the lab registration. In this module, he manages all the labs in states, mapping of parameter, measurement methods, equipment, reagents, etc. So if some lab in charge or lab technician wants to test something and parameter is not available, means super admin has not mapped that particular parameter with particular lab. So they should ask their super admin first to check if that for that particular lab that particular parameter is mapped or not. Similarly, for the measurement methods, equipments and reagents also. Many times I have seen this query and raised in the group that for this lab we are not able to test arsenic, we are not able to test nitrate. So if parameter mapping is not done with the labs, then you will not be able to test that sample. Then lab in charge registration. This is the another important role of super admin. He has to appoint lab in charge and assign labs, and anytime he can deactivate and reactivate these lab in charge, or if someone got transferred, he can change the lab in charge also. Labs area, service area, define the geographic area for the labs, which lab will work in which area. For suppose there is a lab A, then he has to define for this particular district or block, this lab will be working. Means all the sample of this geographical area will come to a particular lab defined by super admin. Finalize the list of sample collector who will collect the sample. This list is also finalized by the super admin. Manage DDWSM. All type users are being created by super admin. Define also they are defining the testing rates. If rates are wrong, then you should go to your super admin and ask to revise the rates for their labs. So the lab in charge, who is the lab in charge, if he is facing some issue, he should contact their super admin first. Sir, please check my data if it is correct or not. Before coming to us, he should go to super admin. What is this? He should go to super admin and request him to verify their lab data. If super admin says your lab data is correct, everything is correct, then super admin should raise the issue with the DDWS. That for that lab in charge, there is an issue. Similarly, update NAVL status. They can update NAVL status for any labs and sample testing rates. So these are the features of state user, means super admin. Then comes to sample collector. So these super admins and sample collector comes under department official. Sample collector registers, they register themselves, collect the sample and submit the sample in labs for testing. Then forward the samples to labs. There are two responsibilities that have been given to sample collector. One is they simply go collect the sample and submit the sample for lab testing. But for FTK, if FTK is found, if any sample is found contaminated using FTK, then these sample can also be sent to the lab for retesting. So these two responsibilities have been assigned to the sample collectors. So these two roles comes under department officials. Then laboratory officials, there are two type of roles in laboratory officials, lab in charge and lab technician. Lab in charge manages lab technician details, manage FTK users, approve lab testing results, retake the test found contaminated in FTK testing if required. If some test is required to be done again, they can retake the test found contaminated in FTK testing. NABL status, they can update their NABL status. So NABL status can be updated by two persons. One is lab in charge themselves and other is super admin. If super admin wants to update any NABL status, they can update also. Then sanitary survey and remedial action. Remedial action in terms of retesting is acha. If any sample is found contaminated for chemical test for chemical contamination, then remedial action is that they should again test the sample in labs. Means using FTK, if it is found contaminated, then remedial action is they should test that sample in labs. But if a lab sample is found contaminated, then remedial action is goes to DWSM official. They have to take some countermeasures. But for FTK and found contaminated using chemical, then remedial action is taken by lab in charge. Then lab technician receives the sample submitted. From whom sample has been submitted? From the sample collectors. Then he tests the samples, report the results of the sample tested, forward the sample tested to lab in charge. Until and unless the lab in charge reports, approves the sample tested, after approval of lab in charge only, the report is generated. So these are the roles of laboratory officials, lab in charge and lab technician. DWSM official, they are only for monitoring, takes remedial action if contaminated using FTK, using labs. If one sample is found contaminated using labs, then this is the responsibility of DWSM official to take remedial action. Enter with information of village wise availability of FTK. How many FTK field test kits are available in a particular village? That is the responsibility of DWSM official. They have to enter village wise distribution of FTK. So these were the roles of the users that have been already defined in the WQMIS application. This is our dashboard. I assume that you have already seen it. This is our old screenshot, so don't worry, data is not correct. These are the reports. Some reports are now in public domain also. So take extreme precaution while doing the data entry. Like I have seen the mails from some states that we have wrongly marked the sample contaminated, but it should not be contaminated. So these type of activities should be avoided. These are the different reports. And one more thing we have launched, that there are some states that have their own application and they are using these application for testing. So we have provided APIs where they can directly insert data. They don't need to enter data manually here. Like West Bengal is doing and Haryana is also doing. So these are our data integration module. There are some common issues related to data entry, issues related to reports. I have inserted this slide because before the training also I highlighted this issue and I will try to solve the problems like user is not able to log in. This is a common issue. The user is not able to log in. Then you have to see that particular user is active or not. And I have already explained whose responsibilities lie at which level. Like for department level of official, if he is not able to log in, then he should talk to his super admin. My login is active or not. For FTK users, live in charge should see if particular login is activated or deactivated. Similarly, lab is not visible. If lab is not visible, means your lab mapping with the particular village or particular district is not done by the super admin, or it was done but now it is removed. So if lab is not visible, you should ask your super admin to check the mapping of your geographical area to that particular lab. Parameters not available for testing. If some parameter is not available, then also you should ask your super admin that particular parameter has been assigned to a particular lab or not. This is village, like village is not visible. If particular village is not visible, then you should see if that village exists in our database or not. If that village exists, then you should ask your counterpart, means you should ask your public health engineering department or your concerned TWAD, like in Tamil Nadu TWAD board is there, in UP Jal Sansthan is there, in MP public health engineering department is there, in Haryana PhD is there. If particular village is not visible, then it is the responsibility of your counterpart at the state that they should add the particular village in our database. If they haven't added this particular village, then you will not be able to see the village. So I am referring you one format. Please note down. There is a format B1, B for Bombay 1, B1 in ejalshakti.gov.in. In ejalshakti.gov.in, you please check the format B1. If village is there and then also you are not able to see that particular village, then means your lab mapping with that particular village is not done. If lab mapping is also done and the village is reflected in format 1 B1, then please write to us. We will see what is the issue. Then you are saying remedial action cannot be taken. So remedial action, there is a option who will take the remedial action for which type of contamination. Like I told you, for chemical, for FTK testing, if a sample is found contaminated, then it is the responsibility of lab in charge to take the remedial action. For the sample that has been tested in labs and found contaminated, then it is the responsibility of DWSM official to take the remedial action. So please take, I will share this presentation to you also in the group also. So in future you should see where is the issue, and I hope you will solve the issue by yourself only. Source is not visible. If source is not visible, means in the IMIS, in the JJM IMIS, source has been deleted or source has been shifted. So you have to go to your counterpart division, means PhD or board or Jal Sansthan, कि this source is not visible in the particular village, because this source and village, this is not in your hand. This is being inserted and managed by your counterpart department in your state who is providing water supply to the rural area. Number of sources are more than the actual on ground. Who is doing the source entry? Source entry is being done by the your counterpart department. So if sources are in more number, then you should contact your the particular JE or particular executive engineer that the sources are more, but it is less on the ground. Please delete extra sources from the JJM and the reports these are very basic. Two issues are there. Data entered is not visible in reports and numbers are not matching. If data entered is not visible in the reports means approval is pending somewhere in the system. If approval is also done, so then we reflect the data after 24 hours. Means if you are entering the data today, the data will reflect tomorrow, not today itself. So please take care of these two remarks that I have just mentioned and then see your data is visible or not. Numbers are not matching as per data entry done. This is slightly related to the first option. The numbers are not matching. You have entered 10 samples, but the reports are being only showing only 5. Means your 5 samples haven't been approved till now. So this was my last slide, and I hope I resolved your